Hello, hello. My name is Jennifer, and this is Jen the Bookworm. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first time you're coming here, thank you for coming, and I hope you like what you've come to check out. Today I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm filming at a different time of day, so if you notice some lighting differences, that's what it is. It's at night, no natural lighting. Today I am filming a book tag called "Why Haven't I Read These Books?" tag. And I was sort of tagged by Theo from at Rekindled Reader, which I will link him below. He's a fantastic booktuber, and he did this video a little while ago, about a week ago, if that. And then in his comments, I was saying this sounded like an interesting tag, and he said, "Tag, you're it." So here I am. I had a little trouble doing this tag, mostly because I'm not sure if this is like getting a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, or if the original questions were just initially vague on purpose to allow for people to answer a variety of ways. So bear with me on this a little bit. But the first "Why haven't I read this book?" prompt is a classic book. So I'm taking this to mean, what is a classic book that I'm not sure why I haven't read? It's exactly up my alley. It's the kind of thing I would read. Why haven't I read it? And to that I answered Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I like Jane Austen. I have read a couple of her books. Most notably, my favorite of hers has been Emma. And I have watched different movies based off of Pride and Prejudice, or at least in part based off of. And I've enjoyed those. Why haven't I read this book? I really couldn't tell you. It's on my to-be-read list, my lifetime to-be-read list. It's been on there for a while, so maybe I ought to pick that one up sometime soon. And as a matter of fact, I think I have it on my audibles. I just need to listen to it or read it or something. And I'm sure it's a book that I will love, but I haven't gotten to it yet. This next one was particularly difficult. The prompt is a fiction book. And my first thought was, wow, that's vague. So I'm taking this to mean that it's a fiction book in a genre that I read, that I should have already read this book if I'm going to come onto YouTube and act like I have any authority to talk about books at all. And I'm being facetious, obviously, but there are a couple books in the genres that I read that I haven't read that are quintessential to that genre. Why haven't I read it yet? The first one, don't hate me, the first one in the genre I read the most, which is fantasy, is Lord of the Rings. I have never read Lord of the Rings. I did read Hobbit. I think Hobbit is such a easy to digest, small gateway drug into Lord of the Rings, and I read it, but I never graduated into Lord of the Rings. And obviously I love the movies. Obviously I love the genre. I feel a little bit like Lord of the Rings is such a foundation for every fantasy book out there. It's sort of like a brick. Lord of the Rings is to fantasy like a brick is to a house. Every house may start with a brick or some other building material, but the brick all in of itself, the contained brick, is not as interesting as what a person does with it afterwards. Which sounds sacrilegious to say, but I should read it. I want to read it. I have it. I don't know how many copies of it I've owned over the years. Quite a few. And I have it on audiobook, as well as I do have a hard copy book of Lord of the Rings, which I can't read because of my eyesight, but I do have it. It was one of those books I just didn't want to part with, but I have it. Anyway, so that's one of them. But I also read other genres. So I decided to do one for all the genres that I read. Not all the genres I read. All the genres I read most often, I guess. And I picked fantasy, horror, and romance. These are the three genres I read most often. So the quintessential horror book, I would say Stephen King, It. Although Bram Stoker's Dracula and anything Lovecraft was up there. But Stephen King, It is one of the quintessential horror books. Stephen King is the quintessential horror writer. Why haven't I read it? Well, the short answer is I tried, and I DNF'd it about halfway through when I was a teenager. The long answer is I really want to get back to it. I really want to read it. I'm reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King, and I'm loving it. I know that his writing style is vastly different from when he did it to now. So I know this isn't a gateway into reading it, but I want to try it. I want to pick it up again now that I'm an adult. Maybe I have more patience. I don't know. I want to try it again. So it's on my TBR, my lifetime TBR. This is a million books strong. The last one, I tried to look up a romance book. I tried, guys. My Google foo is not good. I suck at Googling things. I always have. I'm constantly asking my partner, can you Google this for me? Can you figure this out? He gives me a look, but his Google foo is better than mine. But I was trying to find what's the quintessential romance book, and I couldn't find it. And guys, if you know, comment the answer to me. I will check it out, but I couldn't find one. I found the quintessential novelist, which is Danielle Steele, and I read a lot of Danielle Steele. She's my mom's favorite. And so I started out, if you have been following me or you know me at all, I started out reading the books that my mom had. So definitely Danielle Steele was on the list. And I did like some of hers. I'm sort of hit or miss with Danielle Steele. But I couldn't find like the quintessential romance book. Please comment if you have an answer for that. Let's see. The next prompt is a nonfiction book. And I had a little easier time with this, but only marginally, actually. I would love to read, in college, I needed to read The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, and I really enjoyed it. I love evolution. I love the discussion about evolution. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. I went to school for psychology, and in particular, my focus was evolutionary psychology. Did some research in it, presented my own research in Las Vegas at a psychological conference on pertaining to a topic pertaining to evolutionary psychology. I was on a research team for one of the professors who did evolutionary psychology. I love the topic. So I'd like to read another one of his books. He does a lot on evolution, some on I want to say religion, but it's not really religion. It's on our dependence on religion and such. It sounds interesting to me. Another book that I've recently heard of that I would like to read, and it's a nonfiction book, is called, let's see, what is it? It's called Think Again, and that's by Adam Grant. And part of the reason why this particular one I was drawn to it was because I really fancy myself an open-minded person. I really love to debate. I try to get into debates with people who will actually debate, not just crumble at the first chance, at the first time that you disagree with them, crumble down to resorting to calling you names and stuff. But people who actually have, ideas and thoughts and will debate with me, and it can get heated and stuff, but then we never take it personally, right? So I pride myself on being the kind of person who can have an opinion, state my opinion, argue my opinion, and then even if you haven't changed my mind, still walk away friends with you. But I like to think that I'm an open-minded debater, that even the concepts that I think I know, that I'm open enough to listen to somebody else's concepts or somebody else's ideas about my concepts and be persuaded. I have been persuaded in the past on topics that I thought I was steady on, but somebody came up with a good argument that I didn't think of, and I thought about it more. And so this book, Think Again, is sort of feels like it's asking you to take a second look at things you think you know. And I think that's very interesting. So I think that's a nonfiction book I would like to read. Maybe see it on my TBR sooner rather than later. I think it sounds interesting. So the next prompt in the tag was a genre book. And that was really vague. So I'm taking that to mean a book in a genre that I would like to get into, that I'm not into. So a genre I don't often read. So I was looking up for science fiction. I like the concept of science fiction. I don't often click with science fiction, and I've tried some, and some, I don't know, some of them I've read, Michael Crichton stuff, and I liked it okay. There have been some books where you mix the science in there, and I've liked it, but I don't know, I'd like to get into it maybe, if I can find a book that I can relate to. So I tried to look up what a quintessential science fiction book would be, or a science fiction book that would be a really good gateway or beginner's science fiction book. And I saw a list, and top of that list seemed to be The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I have that book. I have a couple of renditions of that book, actually, because it's one of those books that I always think, I'm going to read this. I'm going to, and I never have. I have listened to, what was it? I had listened to a radio drama of it once upon a time, part of it, not the whole thing. And I was entertained by that. So I have high hopes that if I were to get the audiobook, I would be entertained by it at the very least. So I may not click with it or understand it, but I'd be entertained. Another book on the list was Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein, and never read the book, but obviously. But I did watch the movie. It's actually one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite, you have those movies that, and I'm talking to you Gen Xers, you people who know what it's like to have to flip through channels because not everything is streaming. But the Starship Troopers is one of those movies that if I was flipping through channels and I saw it was on, I would stop there and just watch it wherever it was. And, it could be halfway through, it could be, just starting, but I would watch Starship Troopers because it's a really good time. And I really love it. I love the cinematic elements they add to it, the World War II propaganda bits of it that they have. Obviously not World War II, but copied from World War II propaganda that was done here in America and maybe elsewhere. I really like the, I don't know, maybe the book has these elements because I've never read it, I don't know. But in the movie, it was like, do you want to know more? Click here to find out more, And I thought those were very interesting choices, very cool takes. Maybe the book has things like that. Maybe I would like it. So that could be a book that I could use to gateway into science fiction if I wanted to do that. Lastly, the last one that was on the list of sci-fi was A Handmaid's Tale. I didn't know that this would be considered sci-fi. Would you consider it sci-fi? I don't know. It's a book that I'm interested in, but not sure about. Also, the TV show is a TV show I'm interested in, but I'm not sure because of the content matter. I'm not sure. It's kind of something that I want, that I'm afraid is going to be triggering for me. So I want to grab somebody else and trigger them along with me so I'm not alone in this mess. How's that? It's just, I'm not sure. But would this book be considered science fiction? If you think so, if you don't think so, comment and let me know. Better yet, if you know of a good sci-fi gateway drug, not drugs, but you know what I'm saying. If you know of a good book that might pique my interest in sci-fi, make me want to try it out a little more, feel free to comment that in the comment section. I'd be interested in knowing what you think. The last prompt in this tag was a book that I've owned for the longest time but haven't read. Oh, so I don't know if anyone's told you, but reading books actually is comprised of two different hobbies. There's the buying the books hobby, and there's the reading the books hobby. And sometimes these intermesh, but not always. And this is a hard one for me to answer because I used to have a large library. Like, I could have filled the background of my office here with a pretty big library, and actually did have a really big library at one point. And I had to give away those books. I needed the extra space, and my eyesight is going and I can't read them in print version anyway. And I'm getting them slowly but surely on my Kindle. So there were books there that I had bought that I had given away. I can't even remember now, that I hadn't read yet. Lord of the Rings, I guess, is my cheatery answer to this. But since I already used it for the first prompt, I think it's cheating to use it for the second prompt. I'd like to finish the rest of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. I have this book, a compilation of them. I've had it since I was in high school. I think it's not my oldest owned book, but it's up there. I used to read it to my sister at bedtime. It's got a little sentimental value, but I don't know if that's exactly a good answer to this prompt either. It kind of feels like a cheaty answer as well, because it's not really a book, it's a compilation of short stories. I don't know if that makes any sense, but so I was looking through my Audibles account to see what book I have on there that I've owned the longest that I haven't listened to. I also could have gone through my Kindle library, but it scared me because it's scary big. With a ton of books on there, and I didn't want to go through it all. So I went with my Audibles, and the book that I have on there that I've owned the longest that I have not listened to is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I heard about this book back when I was in college. I was reading, I don't remember what I was reading. I was reading something. I came into my math class, and I sat down and I picked up my Kindle and I was reading. And my math teacher happened to be reading her Kindle, waiting for everyone to file in. Noticing that I have a Kindle, she came over to me. She says, "What you reading?" And so we talked a little bit, and she was telling me she's reading Outlander, and she said it was really good, that I should read it. Now, she didn't know she doesn't know my reading taste or anything, but she thought it was really good. She thought it was good enough to recommend to a perfect stranger just because I had a Kindle and she had a Kindle. And I thought that was great. I thought it was fun. So I put it on my TBR. I looked it up, saw that it looked like the kind of thing that I would read. And when I got my Audibles account, the first book that I thought to put on there, they were having a sale, I think, and I got the Outlander, the first Outlander book in the series, and then proceeded to not read it because that's what you do, because buying books and reading books. So it's on my TBR. Maybe I should make this entire book tag a TBR one of these days. That might be a thing to do. I'm not sure I could read all of these books in 1 month, though. Lord of the Rings, it scares me a bit. But maybe start working some of these into my TBR wouldn't be a bad idea. So that I can get through some of the books that I want to read, and I don't really know why I haven't read them, which was the point of this tag to begin with. So that's what I have for you. Normally, this is where I would tag other people. I'm not sure that I know enough other people to feel comfortable tagging yet, but if you are watching this and you are a YouTuber, tag. If you are watching this and you are not a YouTuber, tag. Just put your answers in the comment section down below. Answer me. You don't have to answer all of them, or you can. But what's a book that you have had the longest that you've been wanting to read but you haven't gotten around to it? Or what's a book that you feel like you should have read because it's quintessential to the genre that you love, but you haven't read it yet? Comment down below any one of these questions you want to answer. Go for it. I'm interested, and we can chat about it. So thank you guys for listening to me ramble on about the books that I would love to love or, hope to read one of these days. And I thank you very much for coming and spending some time with me. And I appreciate if you enjoyed what you saw. I would appreciate if you gave me a like. Sub to me if you haven't subbed already. It's free to do, and it really helps out my channel. Lets me know that you want to see more content like this. I have a couple of tags that I've been holding on to. Some of them I feel like would be better if I waited until I've done booktube a little bit longer. But, I've got a couple of them. If you think that there's some tags that I should do, or you're a YouTuber who'd like to tag me on something, feel free. I am always looking for some good interaction with other booktubers, with other people. I'm looking to do this just to talk with you all about books. I'll talk about whatever you want to hear me talk about. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.